مباشرة للحوار والجلسة الحوارية، بالإمكان الحصول على السماعات مع فريق الدعم للاستماع إلى الجلسة الحوارية مترجمة باللغة العربية. من يرغب الحصول على سماعة لترجمة الجلسة الحوارية إلى اللغة العربية، يوجد سماعات توفر ترجمة لحظية لمحتويات الجلسة الحوارية.
اوكي احسن. ايه تمام. Is it good now? So you have to lean down towards. Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تمام. السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. حياكم الله في جلستنا الأولى. And welcome Eddie to our first session today. Our session, Eddie, is focused on sustainable development in rural areas, especially in the mountains. And you have an extensive experience with tourism and hospitality. You've been a board member of directors in the Saudi Tourism Authority in the past 4 years, I believe. And you have an experience of 8 years with Saudi tourism industry. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in Saudi Arabia and how you see the potentials of the entire country and Jazan in particular?
Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning, everybody. First, let me please say I'm humbled and honored to have been invited to come and speak with you today. So shukran for having me. I'm happy to be here. I will say that I started my journey with the KSA started about 8 years ago when I was asked to become a special advisor to the Public Investment Fund on a project. And as the PIF does, they start with a project and decide if it will become a company or not. And that project was the genesis of what today is Cruise Saudi. So from there, they asked me to be on the board of directors of the Saudi Tourism Authority, where I have been since its inception. It's hard to believe it's been nearly 8 years, and I will say I have followed the journey of Vision 2030 since its inception, and it is just fascinating to watch the development of your beautiful country. So that was my introduction to Saudi Arabia.
Interesting. Thank you, Eddie. So if we look at you, Eddie, you have Italian roots. In our preparatory discussions, I came to know that you have Italian roots. And our key topic today, rural tourism, has Italian roots too. As we know that rural tourism and specifically agri-tourism sector of the rural tourism began in Italy post-World War II. And it made huge change to the south, especially of Italy. And today we're talking here from the south of Saudi Arabia. Can you tell us a little bit about how did it change the economy of the rural areas in the southern part of Italy? And do you see that we have similar opportunities to what happened in Italy?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, I do have Italian roots. I always say I'm half Italian. My mother was born in Italy, and half Austrian, my father's roots, but all American. But I say KSA lives in my heart. So I've adopted your country. I have the same love for here as I do for Italy, where I owned a home for about 12 years. And I do think Italy is a great example and benchmark strategically for KSA to study if in fact your goal, as it should be in Jazan region, to promote agritourism. So to give you an example, globally agritourism is a $111.1 billion USD equivalent profitability sector by 2032. And that represents a compounded annual growth rate of 12.5% year over year from now to 2032. Italy alone, while if you read any wish list, bucket list items, typically Italy is number one on that bucket list, or the New York Times publishes every January the 50 places to visit in the following year. Italy is always up there. And while Italy gets many, many millions of visitors a year, over 2.5 million of their visitors are coming to Italy exclusively for agritourism. So you are right in the story of Italy in post-World War II. What happened in Italy is that a lot of these smaller villages and regions became abandoned, for lack of a better term, in that the young people, the parents passed away, the young people needed jobs, so they'd move to the cities. And the government really implemented great programs to try to bring them back. And today, with agritourism throughout the country, as I said, over 2.5 million agritourism visitors alone. And they've gone to the rural areas, farms, and those farms develop everything from cheese to, of course, vineyards for wine, which is not applicable here. But everything very popular now is honey and the bees and creating honey for sale. So when you look at that country, I think if agritourism is the goal here, as it should be, it is a great place to study and to sort of follow their lead. And there are many, many different examples of how they've done that successfully in different regions. And from a mountainous region standpoint, I think of the island of Sardinia. Sardinia, by the way, is one of the blue zones where people live to 100 years old. So they're obviously doing something right there. But it's very similar geographically to the video that I just saw. So perhaps that's an opportunity.
So, you mentioned Sardinia and Sicily, and these two destinations are known for their culture. So people, when they visit these destinations, they don't only consume the rural environment, they also consume the culture. And today you saw how beautiful the traditional dresses here, the aromatics and the components of Jazan cultures. Can we build on that to attract tourists to the rural areas, not only on rural environment, but also on the rural culture?
Absolutely. So last year, in 2023, Saudi Arabia exceeded their goal. The goal was 100 million tourists, and they actually exceeded it to 103 million. And while roughly 75% of that number were domestic or GCC regional tourists. The other 25% were international tourists. And I think there is nothing but opportunity here in this beautiful southwestern part of your country. So when an international traveler in particular is traveling from far away, and far away could be, let's say in this case, 6 or 8 hours from Europe or 15 hours from the US, they want to spend a lot of time. And one of the key components of why people travel is they want an authentic experience to learn about the authenticity of not only the country, but the region. And when people are coming that far, today typically, if you're a foreign tourist and you think of Saudi Arabia, I think typically what they think of is Riyadh, Jeddah, and maybe Aula. So clearly, one of the key components is to package this with those other destinations, because when they're coming for 2 weeks, let's say, it is a great opportunity to bring them here. And the infrastructure, your government has done a wonderful job of setting up the infrastructure already. And what do I mean by that? I mean, 8 years ago, there was, for a foreign passport holder to come here, there wasn't an e-visa. Today, there is an e-visa, meaning it's very easy from people from over 49 countries to just go online, do their visa, fly in, and they're here. So that infrastructure for accessibility is already in place, coupled with the myriad of programs that your government has put together. So I flew here through Jeddah yesterday, but a year from now, when your new airport opens, people can fly here nonstop. And that is what I mean by the infrastructure. It has to be easy for them to get here. So if they come to Riyadh first currently, if you package the agritourism and the authenticity of this region from a tourism structure, and we say wrap it up in a bow, it's just very easy. The packages are put together and they can add on as part of their visit to Saudi Arabia, coming to this region with stays at farmhouses, learning about the history. All of that is, from a destination marketing company's perspective, very easy to do and to put together and make it part of the package. So they want to learn about the different regions, and they will want to come here to learn about your agriculture, your coffee. Coffee right now is one of the biggest things. People love their coffee, especially when they're away. So I see this as nothing but investment opportunity and opportunity for the local culture as well.
Beautiful. And for coffee, now we have this Saudi coffee company, which is mainly focused on the mountains of Jazan, producing coffee and helping the coffee farmers. So, Eddie, mass tourism has caused lots of problems to the environment and to the societies worldwide. And in the past few years, we began focusing more on sustainable tourism development, and especially in areas that are considered vulnerable, like the mountains and the islands, and that areas that have very sensitive environment. From that point, I would like to ask you if you can tell us about, based on the story of Italy, how it was able to sustain that leadership of rural tourism, although that Italy has also other offerings, not only rural tourism. Can we, in Jazan, develop a sustainable destination in the mountains that can become a leader for the rural tourism in the, not only in Saudi Arabia, but in the Arabian Peninsula entirely?
Well, I think the goal should be even greater than that, and to make Jazan the global benchmark for agritourism. Again, there is nothing but opportunity here, and I see the opportunity to create what, as an example, Silicon Valley became for tech. why not make Jazan become the new global agritourism leader? And there are a myriad of ways that you can do that. As I said earlier, your infrastructure is set up. And one thing you don't want to happen is over-tourism. Saudi has coined two wonderful phrases that have now become normal speak for the rest of tourism. One is regenerative tourism, and the other is urban aquaticism. And really, what do those two terms mean? Because I speak at many conferences, and when I speak about them, people don't know what that means. And really, to me, what it means is that it's a beautiful way of saying, in line with Vision 2030, sustainability is a key component. So that is what this is about, retaining the sustainability of it. And how can you do it? In following Italy's lead, they set up very strong parameters around what agritourism standards should be. So if you want to be a property that welcomes or labels themselves organic, there are a certain set of rules to follow and things of that nature. But I think not only with the beautiful natural landscape that you have here, and again, the world and the demand, people want sustainability in their travels today, you can become the new global benchmark.
Well, we have an excellent example from Bhutan, the Kingdom of Bhutan in the Himalayas, and they don't focus on the number of tourists, but on the quality of their spending. So they have an indicator called NIH, the National Happiness Indicator, and in Bhutan they try to make less tourists coming to the country, but to secure higher spending from them. So rural tourism and sustainable development of tourism in areas such as the mountains is not focused on the number of tourists, but is focused on creating multiple activities for these tourists in order to spend more in there and make their visits more valuable to the local community, right? Okay.
Yes, absolutely correct. And to that point, to give you an example, the Saudi Tourism Authority a couple of years ago did a contest. And one of the things I love about coming to Saudi and being an American who travels the world, what I love about coming here is speaking to young people, in their 20s, etc. And when I speak to the young people here, they have happiness even greater than perhaps Bhutan's happiness factor. Meaning, in general, my experience is that the young people here are very happy and very excited about their future. And I guess it goes back to the programs that the government has set up to educate them with all of this new tourism and et cetera, becoming a world leader in tourism, which you guys have done very well so far. But with regard to agritourism and how to set it up, they had this contest and they asked the young people to create in an entrepreneurial spirit a company and company ideas. And the winner of that contest was a company that exists today called High Home. You can look up their website. And what this program is back to the authenticity of a Saudi experience. You put in the city, and Jazan is on there, or a region, and you as a tourist can come to a home or a farm of a local that has raised their hand and said, I want to welcome these tourists into my home and show them an authentic Saudi experience. So whether that's in a city like Riyadh or rural here in Jazan. And I think that's a good example of how you can translate the authentic experience to a tourist coming here. And that's just one example. As you develop these farmhouse experiences or bed and breakfast experiences, but no matter what amount of development you do, the key is telling that story and marketing that story to a global audience. And that's where the internet and partnering with STA in advertising the story of this region is so crucial. Because if you build it, they will come, that old expression. However, you have to communicate this to a global audience. So I hope I've answered your question.
It's excellent speech from you, Eddie. I would like to go back to the recent talk by the Minister of Tourism. Finally, he recognized the rural tourism to be a vital sector for Saudi tourism industry. And although we have excellent experiences, the past few years, the Ministry of Tourism did not really consider rural tourism as a key sector to focus on, but in his speech recently, His Excellency the Minister was talking about how we can develop experiences for rural visits and people who are interested in rural areas. My question to you, Eddie, is that a lot of people now want to develop let's say rural lodges or bed and breakfast and other activities for tourists to attract more visitors to the area. Can you give them some ideas about where to start for them? What do they need in order to start tourism businesses in rural areas, especially in the mountains?
Sure. Well, first, His Excellency the Minister Al-Khatib, who is KSA's Minister of Tourism, is the chairman of the Saudi Tourism Authority. He is excellent, and I can only presume that he didn't focus on this perhaps as much in the past because there was so much else to focus on. But back to the great success story of achieving in such a short time 103 million visitors here, clearly His Excellency and the team are doing something right. And I think a place to start, again, I go back to all of the infrastructure that has been set up already through your government. So partnering with the Saudi Tourism Authority to work with them for some of their advertising budgets, but even to the locals, you have the Tourism Development Fund, which is an amazing program that your government has set up, where if you present a business plan and a feasibility study, they will help you fund it. And I believe you also have Surat, another program, to help the locals. So where to begin, I think, is finding out what is the asset. So if it is a family that owns a farm and they want to do this, back to STA can help them get started. But I'm also a big proponent of sort of sister cities, if you will. And there are many cities and examples throughout the world that have successfully done this. And I think if you can partner and pick a sister city, they can give you the roadmap with their business plan of how they did it. But it's an individual case by case, and it's a fairly easy roadmap. First, you need the asset, the farm, the bed and breakfast, and then putting together the programs, working with destination marketing companies. If they don't already exist here, there are others throughout the country that do, that I'm sure would be happy to bring their experience here to this region to put these programs together. And when we talk about sister cities, I think that there's an opportunity in two ways to create sister cities here. One, with your great university. I would find a university that can be a sister city university where you can learn from each other and attract a lot more students, particularly in the tourism world, because this is a growing multi-trillion-dollar market, global tourism. And you have the asset, this beautiful land, to create and again make it the new benchmark.
It's beautiful. So it's not really the responsibility of the government, but it's all stakeholders, the locals, the DMCs, and the universities, and almost every key player and stakeholder involved in the destination should be involved also in supporting and marketing the destination, right?
Absolutely. It takes a community team effort, and it starts in the grassroots of the community here, and asking, just like that example I gave you of High Home, the company that lets visitors come in for an authentic experience. When they started that company, they went out throughout Saudi and asked homeowners, who's interested in participating in this program? They had over 750 homeowners that raised their hand throughout the country that said they wanted to be part of it. So I think it begins absolutely in the local community and asking your local farmers, et cetera, who wants to be involved with this? Because it's an opportunity not only for that homeowner, but for their children to grow and create a family business. And when I think of a place that did it from nothing, I always say celebrity sells. So as an example, when I was watching the video of the bees and the honey, you look at a footballer like David Beckham. David Beckham has his own home in England where that's his greatest hobby now, to raise bees and have honey. So maybe he's somebody who becomes a spokesperson for the honey aspect of it here. I'm just giving you ideas. Another example would be a sister city. Back to celebrity, there's a very high-end fashion designer named Brunello Cucinelli, and I love his story because it's germane to development. He came from a very little village in Umbria in Italy, and he asked his father for a loan, and his father gave him a $500 loan many years ago, and he developed that into $1 billion company. And he came back to his city, Solomeo, and totally developed it for the people. And now it is an agritourism type development as well. So partnering with sister universities or sister cities to learn from their roadmap, I think, can be a very easy way to fast track development.
Eddie, if we look at Jazan, there is a government program from the Ministry of Water, Agriculture and Environment, or Ministry of Environment, Water, Environment and Agriculture, MEWA. They have a project called the Sustainable Rural and Agricultural Development Program, SRAD, or REEF, Saudi REEF. And this project, they have 8 components. And Jazan is the only region in the country that has all components. It's extremely strong as an agriculture country or part of the country. But also part of this program is rural tourism and agritourism. So we have some of these components include coffee, fruits, honey, livestock, and aromatics, which is very special here in Jazan. How can we build on that to attract visitors to the region, both domestic and international? We need to consider that, or remember that the largest portion of visitors to Jazan is currently visiting family and friends, which is not too good, for tourism and the economy. So how can we build on that program from the Ministry of Water and Agriculture in order to bring more tourists to the rural areas?
Well, I think, first of all, back to why you should become the new benchmark for this. It's the only region in the KSA that has all 8 components. But it goes back to marketing and telling that story. So you had a beautiful video up there. I think that telling your story begins with perhaps creating a video that explains just that, the 8 components. And 3 of those components are very hot global things right now, meaning in demand. Excuse me. What's in demand right now is coffee, absolutely. And so just coffee alone, in America and the world, this is a hot thing where everybody wants coffee beans. And my husband is my personal barista. I'm a coffeeaholic, so you're talking to the customer here. I have 7 different coffee machines, including a beautiful Arabic service in my home. But what happens? They go online and they buy these different coffee beans from all over the world. So if we just look at coffee as one example and the power of the internet, there is a business. All of these beans can be packaged in eco-friendly bags and sold on the internet. That alone can become $1 million business. But even if you create the infrastructure for the locals to package and sell their coffee beans and ship them all over the world, you have to advertise and tell that story. So whether it's the coffee or the honey, and it goes on, the mangoes, you have to really create the marketing program and tell the story. And then advertising it, I don't want to say is easy, but it's easy because of the internet. There are ways to advertise that in a very cost-effective manner, but it is also packaging that story as an add-on when visitors are coming to Riyadh or Jeddah to create, when you come to these cities, now you must also come to the southwest part of Saudi Arabia to learn about all of our part of the world. So this is key. You can build the greatest packaging, but if you don't tell the story, how are they going to know?
So Eddie, in the video we saw earlier, you saw how beautiful Jazan is. But maybe a key challenge for Jazan is being neighbor to another beautiful province, Asir. Asir can offer a lot of the things that are available in Jazan. So isn't competition something negative for Jazan?
No, I don't view, within KSA, in my humble opinion, I don't view Asir or anywhere else as competition. I view it as complementary, meaning you can all help each other. And last year, I had the privilege of speaking on a panel in Riyadh at the Future Hospitality Summit, and that panel was specifically on Asir. And there was the Minister of Investment, there was the CEO of Kurtan, which is a hotelier that is building in Asir. It was about 6 different panelists that are developing the infrastructure to market Asir. And I say, why not also Jazan? I mean, so one of the things, if I were coming here and I were doing my own research and I've never been here, what do I learn about this area? I learned that you have a beautiful Al-Dasaria castle, you have a fantastic university, you have the Farasan Islands just 40 or 50 kilometers off the coast. You have the mountainous region with these 8 aspects of agritourism. So this would be very easy to package into a 4-day trip here, let's say.
Combining both.
And combining it even with Asir. Maybe it's just a visit to the south, and that's 2 days Asir, 2 days Janzen, and complementary packaging it all together. They have done a very good job of advertising their, what a tourist would know as the gingerbread village, which I believe you pronounce it, and forgive me, Rijal Al Maya. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, forgive my pronunciation. But that alone, for me as a tourist, when I come to Riyadh and I see those ads about this gingerbread village, I want to come and visit it. So again, they've done a good job of starting to tell their story. But I don't view any place in the KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as competition. I would think you should all view each other as complementary brothers and sisters and help each other, and then together you all rise up.
Okay, so Eddie, in our preparatory discussion, we were talking about Jordan. I had myself an experience visiting Jordan, and as part of the conference plan, we had a visit to a UNESCO heritage site that called As-Salt. And in that site, we looked at the landscapes and the beautiful heritage sites there, but we also visited homes of people. And we ate in those homes. We interacted with those people, and we learned about the culture, the way they talk, the way they eat, the design of the house, and everything. In Saudi Arabia, people are very generous, they are very hospitable. And many people visit the mountainous areas and they find themselves being invited to homes. People are feeding them for free, coffee for free, maybe sleeping for free. Isn't that a negative thing from the perspective of tourism? And this is our last question for today.
So I have always said, coming to Saudi Arabia and the hospitality of this country, you guys are doing something very right, raising your families the way you raise them. Because I have traveled, the world has 195 or 96 countries. I've only been to 2/3 of them, over 120. But I've never seen hospitality anywhere in the world, and not at a luxury hotel, a luxury cruise ship, like I see in Saudi Arabia. And I say if you could market that hospitality or trademark it, everybody would be very wealthy, because it's something so rare, and how you teach that to the rest of the world should be a lesson. But so to that point, that warmth and welcoming people into the homes, which is what High Home does, by the way, but for a fee, you must monetize it. And that's where, as generous and lovely as the people are and wanting to let people into the home, I think you have to charge them. Tourists are expecting it. They want to pay, they want to meet the locals, and then there's a way to transcend that experience. So you brought up the point of the food. The food is incredible, and why not then create the online recipes from that family as an example, so people can take those recipes home and carry that memory. Because why do people travel? People travel to create memories of a lifetime, and the more authentic the experience, like being welcomed into somebody's home, meeting their family, seeing the architecture, seeing perhaps how different it is from another place around the world, that's what they want, and they expect to pay for it. So as generous as the locals may be in wanting to do it for free, they should monetize it, and it gives them an opportunity to earn an income. The other thing is NGOs and local crafts. People want to buy these things when they're visiting these places. So another opportunity for revenue. It is all a strategic plan, and it's economics 101. As lovely as the people are, it has to be a profitable business model.
Oh, so tourists have always to pay, although they want to be feeling welcomed. They're also expecting to be paying to the locals in return of the service and the hospitality they might receive from them.
Absolutely, and I have seen in places where they don't pay, as an example, visiting NGOs around the world, and Jordan, as you spoke of, I've been there as well. The average tourist, an international tourist, they feel, I don't want to use the word guilty, but they feel guilty when they're not paying, and at the end of some of these visits, they will leave cash and leave a donation. But it is totally acceptable to expect them to pay for these experiences. And the example you brought up about coming into a home, that is what High Home does today, and they pay. The tourists pay for that.
Maybe it's a little bit culturally not okay for people to ask for money in return of services, for hospitality services. So maybe as DMCs, destination marketing companies, they can package that and price it as part of the package, and then pay the owners of these houses and the locals from the company, not from the directly from the tourists.
Absolutely. Forgive me if I misspoke, because that's how it has to happen.
Okay.
Yes, they shouldn't be going to the home and paying there. All of it should be prearranged as part of the DMCs, and the client, the guest, can pick what package they want. So as an example, I may be coming to Jazan, staying here. I may be going on a boat trip to the Farasan Islands, or I may be a tourist, maybe as part of Cruise Saudi and their new ship they just launched. This will be a port stop, and one of the shore excursions might be to visit a farm or visit a bed and breakfast. But all of that is done through the DMC. There would be no changing of money exchange at the individual houses or farms, all in advance, and then the DMC that packaged it would pay the local homeowner.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Eddie. It's been a pleasure for me to host you here today. And thank you also for sharing such very beautiful insights to the audience. Thank you very much.
Shukran to all of you. It was truly my humble honor and privilege to be here. Shukran.
شكرا لنجوم هذه الجلسة الرائعة جدا. كانت جلسة ثرية. نستأذنكم قليلا لندعو رئيس غرفة جازان دكتور أحمد أبو هادي للتكريم محاور أو مدير هذه الجلسة، وأيضا السيدة إيدي رودريقز، وكذلك مدير هذه الجلسة الدكتور حذيفة مدخلي. كانت جلسة ثرية بحثت حقيقة يعني تعزيز دور السياحة في المناطق الجبلية. أثرتنا المتحدثة فيها بكثير من الإلهام وأيضا التجارب والأمثلة. شكرا لكم.